Yeah, all right, mate. You're looking for short-term and long-term GRT. You sent us 6 a.m. today. The heat today is 41 degrees. It's absolutely melting here. So I'm looking forward to cooling down in the evening. But yeah, short-term, long-term, at a very, very nice. It's up 3% today actually. So I'm not sure if you got on board or not, but it's up 3%. It had a beautiful bullish weekly stop hunt last week, taking a little bit of liquidity here. It's a bullish outside bar now. Here, a bullish outside bar obviously is technically bullish. There was a bullish outside bar here, right? I just noticed that looking at the chart here. You can see one here, bullish outside bar. They dipped down here. Obviously it dipped down, it was about a 50% retrace back down, and then it moved up higher. So it did give more upside, you know, before failing, but that's a 33% bounce. So what I'm saying, you know, something similar, be worth watching some sort of dip here in a new 2 week. This is a weekly chart I'm on. I'll look at a 2 week chart now in a minute. But any sort of dip down into here looks very good for then going higher. You know, if it can get down there, it'd be fantastic. It's a really good buy if it gets down in there. And then, you know, looking for a move back up in here into these wicks, I would suggest. Lots of liquidity up there. Kind of like here, in a way. I suppose if you look at it, you know, price comes back up in here, taking liquidity in the wicks. It didn't come back up and take it up here, but it now come back and take it, right? You can see here, you know, it has come back and taken liquidity in this wick. So this is a very good move, very solid, very strong move. I would suggest it dips into here. It should be good for higher prices on a new weekly. Now let's look at a 2 week candle just to see how that's looking and playing out. Yeah, it's green on 2 week, yeah, very nice. 1 day left. Solid move for sure. It actually looks a little bit like down here. Not quite, but you know, two of the same candles. You can see then dips down into this candle were good buys for higher prices. I'm not sure if this could blast through resistance at this point. Like there's a clear resistance point there. Can this blast up through it? Kinda. I'm not so sure it can do the same type of candle. I'm going to suggest it's not going to do that because that's the safe thing to say. But you know, I'm just saying it's into a resistance point. Let's change that resistance point to down here. Somewhere here. You can see here and here and here. So there is a possibility if it does get through this line here, it could run. Yeah, see, it would that line would also flip it green on the month. Sorry, the quarter. If it flips green on the quarter, it has a better chance, of course, of running then. At this point, it does look like there should be more upside, and if it is going to give more upside, there's a chance this does flip green, which is a very good sign of strength with 1 month and 22 days left. That would open the door for this trying to run this quarter instead of having a consolidation candle here and running next quarter. So, you know, next week looks like a very big week. You know, these bearish 3 month stop hunts are never good. You always got to be careful when, you know, price is below here. Technically, it's still overall bearish below this line, right? And that'll also be a 6 month bearish stop hunt and a 12 month. Oh no, sorry, it's not 12 month. Okay, so it's 3 and 6 month bearish stop hunts. But that doesn't mean they need to hold. They look bad here. It doesn't mean they need to hold. They could pop up and flip green. Bitcoin done it. Bitcoin had bearish yearly stop hunts, and it had like this, and it popped up and flipped green and ran. And when you do pop up and flip green and negate the bearish stop hunt, you can see Bitcoin started to run pretty hard. People will be wondering why it ran hard, but you know, that is a failed move. It's a failed bearish stop hunt, and we popped up, flip green the year, and then price can run. Now, we'll say just to be careful, if there's a bearish 2 week stop hunt on a new 2 week, you do not want to be involved in this. I'm trying to look for an example. It does at this point look like it wants to go a bit higher, but sometimes that move can fail. Well, there's a bearish stop hunt right there, I suppose. I know there's large wicks on this one. You may not be as large wicks. see here, well, I suppose they are definitely worth watching. There's one of those, and the second one here, right? It looks strong. You do get that follow through on Monday morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the move fails and comes back down, and then you reject and flips red again, right? So, you know, you do not want that situation to happen. But what I'm saying is, even here on a new week, if you went long on that new week, right, and traded that higher, there's still a 22% bounce in that wick, right? So this also could have a similar sort of move, you know, trying to push that up into this wick. That's a 15% bounce. So on a new week, if there's a small dip here, and you can buy, if you can buy even lower than there, well, you're already off to a bonus, and then there's a potential of a 20% bounce if you're willing to buy the dip here. If it dips first off the open and comes down in here, that can give a potential of a 20% bounce or so. Even if we flip back to a 3 months chart here, a 10-12% bounce back up to the opening price of the quarter, that will be a major resistance point. So if it does bounce up to that point, you definitely need to be watching that level to see if it rejects or if it can get through it. So these longer term sort of thoughts, when you get candles like this, I know many coins have that, it's very normal to create 2 or 3 choppy small candles afterwards. So you know, before getting a move, right? So it is tricky. I mean, I always like to see the weekly get above the white 100 moving average and start holding, right, as this curves around. You know, technically we're bullish here above the white 100. So as long as this is holding, then it's bullish technically. You can actually see the RSI as well. First time in its history that it's broke out and still holding strong up here, right, above this support, and up on here. I know it kind of broke out here. It was tempting, but this is more of a real breakout. When this stays up here like this, there is a chance of more upside. Part of the problem with GRT may be its large market cap. It's $1.5 billion worth down here. You know, obviously up here it seemed like obviously it was overvalued. I mean, it's 17 cents now, and the high was at 280, 290. So at the highs up here, it was valued at $22 billion or something crazy like that. So it's 1.5 billion. Now it would need a little bit of research if you were looking to hold this long term. You know, is this business still viable? Was it the what's the word I'm looking for? Was it the victim of bad tokenomics or something like that? You know, in the release, in the way they pumped it. I did post yesterday about coins that are very weak. If you are holding in coins that are not so strong and we get an alt season, these necklines can often be major points on the chart where these weaker coins can fail. Now, I may be wrong in saying it's a weaker coin. I'm just saying that potentially. So far, it's not showing much strength when a lot of other coins did. But you know, moves up onto these necklines eventually. That's where I would be taking profits if I was holding GRT. At least taking some profits in there, 50% off the table or whatever. Now, if we look at this, I don't know how much this is going to be, but normally if you see it around 10x or so, you know, that can be a good ballpark figure, and it is about 10x actually to the top. Look at that. So it is about 10x. So that this is fitting the mold for potential coin that can top out around here, in and around here, a little bit like what ACXUSD done. We'll go to this one. Now this is good actually. It's a very good example because GRT is just here, right? So if we look at it, GRT is just here, isn't it? Let me look at GRT again in a minute. But if we look at the neckline, look at this neckline here, right in there. So we'll look at GRT again in a minute, but GRT may be somewhere here. And look at this white 100 moving average. As long as it's holding above the white 100 moving average on a weekly chart, it is bullish, right? And you can see that this can be a long, drawn-out, choppy period. There is June 2020, and even through to here is December. This is a 6-month period here of nothing, okay? And I personally expect this again. This is very, very possible that something like this happens again in the market. I see many coins setting up like this, but you hear me talking about the blueprint for success patterns and how these can be extremely bullish if we see these forming. But look at the targets into the neckline. You know, yes, it did go higher. I mean, it went up to about here, but these necklines are, well, they were resistance and they were distribution points, and then we fell away again. Now, if we go back to GRT, you can kind of see that we have something similar. We have the big blue off top. We have the necklines here, which are 10x bounce. We have the white 100 moving average starting to curl around and is technically bullish as long as these build here on a weekly chart and holds above the white 100. But as you can see, it can take 6 months or so, right? It's very possible. Now that's the 18th of December, so if we run that through to June, somewhere in there, like we may be forming a lot of chop here, and if we form a lot of chop here and hold above this white 100, they are extremely bullish patterns that will then want to go higher. Now, don't get me wrong, I may have this slightly low. You could possibly target that a bit higher, because, well, you've seen ICX push through a little bit, but never managed to cleanly break it. So even, you know, if this curls around here, you know, these dips here in this consolidation, for me it's still bullish, right? And that is a great example of ICX, how this should all play out. Now, if I'm wrong on this, well, this can be a neckline, this can be a giant head. Let me delete this. If I'm wrong, okay, well, somewhere there's a bit of a head and shoulders. Somehow, if GRT is the business that it's trying to be, you know, there's a head, and maybe we get some sort of shoulder here, right? And then maybe we'll have to look for some sort of pattern like that. I'm doing this because I like slanting patterns better. For me, that would give more potential for upside, and this then could give a breakout depending on where it breaks out, and we could move higher and up through that. But we need to assess that later and assess how strong is it, how strong is the market, the timing of it, the amount of money coming into the market. There's a lot of things we need to assess. Do other coins look like they're topping out? Is it a new quarter? Is it a new year? There's a lot of things we can assess later, but as a safe target, that's a wide target there, but you know, I would say there is a potential target at 80 cents and maybe even $1, right? Maybe even $1, but this is a decent target for me. I think there's a lot more consolidation here, and then we can get those moves on a new 6-month candle potentially.